The greatest mistake a man makes in the aftermath of a breakup is the desperate, often unconscious, attempt to remain a visible fixture in the world he has just been exiled from. This isn't just about sending a pleading text or two. It's a sustained campaign of presence. He lingers on her social media pages, not just for a moment of weakness, but as a daily ritual. Feeding his pain with every update she posts, he answers her calls when she reaches out in a moment of late-night loneliness or boredom, mistaking her withdrawal symptoms for a sign of reconciliation. He leaves the door cracked open, offering vague, hopeful statements like, "I'll always be here for you," believing this showcases his noble devotion. In reality, he is building his own prison. This clinging is a fundamental misunderstanding of human psychology and loss. By holding on, he provides a cushion that absorbs the full impact of her decision. She does not feel the void because he is still there, filling it with his emotional energy. She experiences the breakup as a change in status, not as a true ending. She has traded the responsibilities of a relationship for the freedom of single life, all while retaining the security of his attention and loyalty. It is the emotional equivalent of having her cake and eating it too. She can walk away with ease precisely because she hasn't actually lost anything of substance. She still possesses your focus, your care, and your validation. Even from a distance, this dynamic allows her to construct a narrative that protects her from guilt and justifies her actions. While you are still present in the periphery of her life, she can tell herself that you weren't that great, the relationship was holding her back, and that she made the right choice. Your continued devotion becomes the very proof she uses to validate this story. If you were so willing to stay, to wait, to orbit her moods and choices even after she discarded the relationship, then she must have been right to do so. Your persistence reassures her of her own importance and superiority in the dynamic. She feels no loss, and therefore feels no urgency, no need for reflection, and ultimately, no respect for the man who won't stand up for his own worth. The man who clings believes his persistence is a testament to the depth of his love. He thinks that by constantly reminding her of his existence and his feelings, he will somehow reignite the spark that she extinguished. But this is a tragic miscalculation. Instead of reminding her of what she had, it only shows her what she can comfortably live without. It teaches her that she can walk away without consequence, that your devotion is unconditional to the point of self-abandonment. You become her safety net, a comfortable fallback plan while she explores other options or simply enjoys her freedom. This is the worst position a man can ever occupy, being the reliable source of emotional sustenance for the very person who chose to live without him. The illusion of your presence does not bring her back. It simply makes her departure painless, while ensuring your own suffering is prolonged. True loss, the kind that has the power to shatter illusions and force a profound reckoning, is not an act of drama or angry confrontation. It is not blocking her number in a fit of rage or sending a final scorching message detailing all her wrongs. These are simply loud, reactive emotions, and like all noise, they eventually fade. They give her something to push against, a story to tell her friends about your instability, further justifying her decision. The loss that truly penetrates is none of these things. It is, instead, a profound and utter silence. It is the complete and unconditional withdrawal of your presence, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. This is not a tactic to provoke a response. It is the final, quiet acceptance of a door that has been closed. This silence manifests as a total and unnegotiated absence. It means that when she dials your number, perhaps fueled by a moment of nostalgia or late-night doubt, the call goes unanswered. It means that the casual testing text message, the "Hey, how have you been?" disappears into the void without a ripple. It means that the provocative social media post, carefully crafted to bait your attention or jealousy, is met with absolute indifference. You are no longer a spectator in her theater. You have left the audience, and the performance now plays to an empty seat. This is what forces her to sit, truly sit, in the stark reality of her choice. There is no argument to have, no plea to reject, no emotion to manage. There is only the quiet, and in that quiet, the echo of your absence becomes deafening. This complete vanishing act is what dismantles the safety net she believed was permanently woven beneath her. She walked away operating on a fundamental, unspoken assumption that you would always be there, that your emotional energy was a constant, a resource she could tap into whenever she felt lonely, uncertain, or in need of validation. It was her psychological security blanket. When you remove this completely, you are not just taking away a person. You are removing a foundational pillar of her post-breakup reality. The comfort that cushioned the blow of her decision is suddenly gone. She is left with the unvarnished truth of what she has done. And the resulting void is a force far more powerful than any word you could have uttered. It is within this vacuum that the seeds of genuine reflection are sown. Without your presence to push against or your attention to validate her narrative, her carefully constructed story begins to crumble from within. The excuses she told herself that you weren't that important, that the relationship was stifling, that the grass was greener, start to ring hollow in the immense quiet. There is no one to perform for, no one to convince but herself. And in that silence, small, unbidden memories begin to surface. The way you showed up for her without being asked, the specific way you made her laugh, the quiet stability you provided that she now realizes is not a common commodity. These reflections do not happen when you are begging for her back. They are born in the stillness of your absence. Your silence becomes the mirror she never wanted to look into, and in it, she is forced to see not only the value of what she discarded, but also the cold, hard reality of the consequence. You are gone, and it was her choice. Regret is a quiet, insidious force that takes root not in the dramatic moments of confrontation, but in the vast, empty spaces left behind by a complete and final absence. It is not born when she sees you with someone new, a moment often anticipated but which can be rationalized away as a rebound or a performance meant to provoke her. True regret begins its slow, relentless work the precise moment she realizes, with a sinking finality that she can no longer reach you. The emotional tether has been severed. The door she assumed would always remain slightly ajar has been shut, locked, and the key discarded. This realization is the catalyst that transforms a theoretical loss into a tangible, inescapable truth. Initially, her pride will mount a fierce defense. This first stage is one of performative denial. She may flaunt her newfound freedom, post pictures of a vibrant social life, or proclaim to anyone who will listen how much lighter and happier she feels. This is not happiness. It is a desperate incantation against the growing unease. She is trying to convince the world, and most importantly herself, that her narrative of liberation is the true one. She will cling to her justifications, repeating the list of your flaws like a mantra to ward off the first whispers of doubt. But pride has a limited shelf life when it is not constantly fed by external validations, specifically yours. Without your attention, your reactions, or your visible pain to fuel it, the performance begins to feel hollow. Even to her, as the noise of the initial breakup fades and the distractions lose their shine, the silence you left behind becomes a chamber for reflection. This is where the real, unglamorous work of regret begins. In the quiet of a lonely evening, or in the space between one distraction and the next, memories she had suppressed start to resurface. These are not the grand, dramatic moments, but the small, ordinary details of a shared life that she had normalized and taken for granted. She remembers the way you handled a crisis with calm competence, the private jokes that made no sense to anyone else, the specific way you made her feel safe and seen. Your absence reframes these mundane moments, transforming them from routine occurrences into precious, irreplaceable artifacts. The very stability she may have mistaken for boredom now reveals itself as a foundation she no longer has. This process creates a powerful cognitive dissonance. The story she told herself to justify leaving, that you were not that great, that she had outgrown you, is now directly contradicted by the cold, hard reality of your unavailability. She told herself she was the prize, yet you have moved on from the competition entirely. She told herself you would always be there, and you have proven her definitively wrong. This dissonance is the engine of regret. It forces her to reconcile her fictional narrative with the truth, and the gap between the two is where remorse festers. It is a silent punishment that she cannot escape, because it lives within her own mind. She may never admit it aloud. Her pride may prevent her from ever reaching out. But she is forced to carry the weight of what she threw away. Confronted by the one thing she never prepared for, the permanent, unanswerable silence of a man who finally accepted her decision and, in doing so, gave her exactly what she asked for. With devastating finality, the act of walking away completely, of enforcing that absolute silence, is often misinterpreted. From the outside, it can appear to be a strategic move, a grand gesture of pride designed to win her back by playing hard to get. But this perspective misses the entire profound point. The true power of this action is not that it is a tactic aimed at her, but that it is a radical, foundational act of reclamation directed entirely at the self. It is the moment you stop being the man who is defined by her rejection and begin being the man who defines his own worth. This is not about punishing her. It is about protecting and rebuilding yourself. When you cut the cord, you are not engaging in a battle with her. You are ending the war she was waging within your own mind. This process begins with a simple but monumental shift. You stop outsourcing your value. While you were clinging, your sense of self was tied to her perception. Your worth was something she needed to validate by taking you back. Your happiness was a destination only she could provide a ticket to. By vanishing, you make a silent declaration that your worth is not up for debate or dependent on her recognition. It is an intrinsic, non-negotiable fact. You demonstrate this not with words, but with action. You don't explain your value. You embody it. This is the death of the beggar and the birth of the builder. The energy that was once poured into the bottomless well of her attention, checking her profiles, dissecting her messages, mourning her losses, now redirected. That life force is channeled inward, into your mission, your growth, your physical health, and your purpose. This redirection of energy is transformative. The chaos of obsession, the endless cycling of thoughts, the desperate hope, the crushing disappointment begins to subside. It is replaced by a newfound and deeply resonant sense of peace. This is not the fragile piece of distraction, but the sturdy piece of self-ownership. It is the peace that comes from realizing, on a cellular level, that you do not need to be chosen by someone who already discarded you. This realization is liberating. The mental real estate she once occupied for free is now reclaimed. You are no longer a tenant in the prison of her choices. You have become the architect of your own life. This self-reclamation forges a new kind of strength, one that is permanent and self-sustaining. Once you have proven to yourself, through your own actions, that you can not only survive but thrive without her, a fundamental change occurs within your psyche. You have passed the ultimate test of self-reliance. This experience becomes a core memory of your own capability. The neural pathways that once led to desperation and need are rewired to pathways of resilience and self-respect. This is a transformation that cannot be undone. No woman will ever hold the same power over you again, because you now possess the lived, undeniable knowledge that you are the source of your own stability and validation. You become immune to the games and manipulation that thrive on neediness, because you have surgically removed that neediness at its root. In this context, her potential return becomes irrelevant to your core stability. Should she ever circle back, drawn by the void your absence created, your position is fundamentally different. You are no longer operating from a place of lack, hoping she will fill it. You are now operating from a place of wholeness, from which you can assess whether she truly deserves to be let back in. The power dynamic has not simply flipped. It has been transcended. Your value is no longer a question she gets to answer. It is a statement of fact that you live by. The man who emerges from this process is not the same man she left. He is quieter, more focused, and possesses a quiet confidence that cannot be fabricated. He has looked into the abyss of loss and discovered that he himself is the solid ground upon which to stand. By making her lose you, you performed the most critical rescue operation possible. You saved yourself from the man you were becoming. And in doing so, you became the man you were always meant to be. The final, enduring consequence of your complete disappearance is the creation of a psychological imprint that time struggles to erase. The man who clings, who begs, who remains a visible, aching wound in her digital world is ultimately forgettable. He becomes a relic of her past, a testament to her desirability, a static character in the story of her life who confirms her narrative of moving on to bigger and better things. He blends into the background noise of her ego, just another admirer in a long line of those who failed to measure up. His presence, however painful for him, is comfortable for her. It is predictable, manageable, and ultimately dismissible. But the man who vanishes, he becomes an unsolved mystery, a ghost that haunts the architecture of her mind, the one chapter in her story that refuses to conclude neatly. This haunting occurs because your silence actively rewires the entire dynamic of your post-relationship. While you were present, pleading your case or orbiting her life, she was in control. She held the power to affect you, to pull the strings of your emotional state with a simple text or a social media post. Your reactions were data points that confirmed her influence. But silence is the ultimate negation of that control. It tells her, without a single word, that she no longer has access to your inner world, your mind, your heart, or your time. This loss of influence is a profound blow to the ego. It's not merely about missing the relationship. It's about the unsettling realization that a source of validation she had come to rely upon, even in its negative form, has suddenly and permanently gone offline. She has been demoted from a central character in your story to a mere spectator of your absence. This dynamic taps into a fundamental human wiring. We are conditioned to obsess over what we cannot have, what we cannot understand, and what we cannot resolve. Your clean break transforms you from a known quantity into an unresolved question. You become the permanent what if. What if she made a mistake? What if he was the one? What is he doing now? Who is he becoming? Your silence provides no answers, only a blank canvas onto which she projects her doubts, her curiosity, and her growing regret. While other men may still be in her orbit, competing for her attention, proving their worth, and offering validation, behaving unpredictable, easily categorized while your absence sets you apart. You are the exception to the rule. This exception status forces her to wonder, and that wondering is the birthplace of a respect that was never possible when you were readily available. The man she now remembers is not the flawed individual she chose to leave, the man whose virtues she had to minimize to justify her exit. The process of loss and the mystery of your silence refines your memory. Time sandblasts away the minor arguments and the petty grievances, the very flaws she once magnified to ease her conscience. What remains in her memory is a purified, more potent version of you. She remembers your strength, your loyalty, the grounding energy you provided. She remembers the man who, in the end, did not break, but instead turned and walked away with a quiet dignity that she herself could not muster. This is the man who becomes unforgettable, not the man who loved her, but the man who respected himself too much to stay where he was not valued. This imprint is permanent. She may move on, she may even find new love, but the ghost of your departure will linger. It becomes a benchmark against which other men are subconsciously measured. They will be compared to your silence, your resolve, your unyielding self-respect, and they will often be found wanting not because they are inferior, but because they are present and therefore predictable. Their accessibility makes them manageable, but it also makes them ordinary. You, by contrast, became extraordinary through your absence. You taught her a lesson in value that was not delivered through a lecture, but through a void. You demonstrated that some men cannot be controlled by the whims of a woman's affection, that their worth is self-determined and non-negotiable. And whether she admits it aloud or not, a part of her will always know that she had something real, something of substance. And she was the one who let it slip through her fingers. That knowledge, that quiet, unshakable scar of regret, is the final and most enduring consequence of your choice to let her lose you completely. It reshapes her understanding of value, and in doing so, it ensures that the story of you never truly has an ending.